Hey there, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through step-by-step how to connect N8N to an MCP server in Google Antigravity. This is the editor we're going to be using in this case in order to control your N8N from a web display like this, to transform videos into engaging LinkedIn posts, blog articles, and tweets in seconds. So to get started, what you're going to want to do is come on over to something like Google Gemini. And in this case, I just asked it to create an app in Google Antigravity which connects N8N to a website. So it shows the instructions here. First, you need to connect N8N to Antigravity via the MCP. So first of all, you need to install N8N MCP on your local machine, which I've already done over here. And then I just have to put the API key into a configuration file over here. So you're just going to go to Settings, and then it would be N8N API, and this is where you get your API key. And then essentially what you do is you just create this JSON file, which is called MCP-config.json, somewhere here, but I'm not going to actually show it because I don't want to reveal my API key. And now basically what we're doing is we're just building the web app to connect it to N8N so that anybody can use this particular automation. So if I go ahead and enter in a YouTube URL, it's probably not going to work because I'm getting this set up on my local server right here. So if I just go ahead and type in N8N right here, that's going to bring it up on localhost, and then eventually I can use something like Hostinger where I've already got N8N installed, and I can connect it up over here if I want to allow anybody to access this website. But in this case, I'm just going to come over here to N8N, which is running on Hostinger, and I'm just going to export this template. And then I'm going to come on over to my local host, and I'm just going to import it over here. So we'll create the workflow, and I'm just going to go ahead and import that file that we've got, and that will make it available over here on my local machine. So now if we come back over to Google Antigravity, you can see I'm building out the entire app right here. We've got all the files, which I didn't have to write a single line of code in order to create. And it's just going through step by step and creating this implementation file right here, the YouTube content repurposer dashboard, right? And again, this is just going to make it a lot easier for clients to use this, and then I could actually charge a monthly subscription fee in order to use it, so it would be like a micro SaaS platform. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep running the commands. This is going to restart the N8N server, and keep in mind this is the first time I've really delved into Google Antigravity, so I'm still learning as I'm going along here, but I just want to see if this can actually work. So we'll come back over to the browser, and I'm just going to go ahead and refresh this, and we'll paste in a YouTube link. Now if I hit generate content, it still says failed to fetch because I think it's not properly connected to N8N yet. So that's what this should do. It's going to start N8N on an alternate port to bypass any conflicts. So it will just start it on port 5679, looks like. So we're going to come back over here, and I'm just going to change the port. So we'll see if it can load N8N, and now I'm going to have to go ahead and log into my account again. I've already created a tutorial on the channel showing how to create this, and it's a huge time saver for creating LinkedIn posts from YouTube videos. Looks like this part's actually not connected up properly yet because I need to install the Apify node. So we're just going to go ahead and install that. And then we're just going to enter in the package name, which is this right here, Apify N8N node /Apify. That's how we're getting the transcript from YouTube. And let's come back over to Google Antigravity. It looks like it restarted the server, so check the server status, verify dashboard, making sure it's installed properly, and then we're going to accept this. Now it's running on port 5679, and the React app is running on port 5173. So we'll go ahead and run these commands. And this is just using Google Gemini 3 Pro. We can obviously switch the model here as well. You can also use Claude. If you want to use Claude Sonnet instead, you can do that. But I'm just going to use Google Gemini in this case. And there we go. So now we've got the Apify node installed. So if we come back to our automation, you can see this is now connected up properly. We need to create import a workflow with a webhook trigger and name the path. It's going to connect the webhook. It's going to use the dashboard to test with real YouTube URLs. I'm just going to go ahead and refresh that. Paste in, and it still says failed to fetch, unfortunately. So for some reason, it's not able to get this. So the better thing to do would be to just run it on my N8N over here. So in order to do that, I could just tell it to connect to my N8N instance running on Hostinger. And then I think we should just be able to paste in the URL, the IP address, at that IP address. So let's see if this works. User provided remote N8N URL, updating service configuration to use this instead of the local instance. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So we're going to be using that URL instead of N8N on my own machine. And ideally what it should be able to do is it can just pull in this particular workflow and it's going to run it from the web UI over here. So again, it's just saying I've updated dashboard to connect to a remote N8N instance at this URL. So that's what we want. And then it looks like we will need to use that particular webhook, but I can't see the path for some reason. So I don't know which path to use for the webhook. Maybe it has something to do with my theme. So we can check the color scheme right here. And if we change it to light, still can't actually see what that says, unfortunately. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but we'll figure that out later. Just going through step by step here, I'm going to go ahead and accept that. So for some reason, it's still not actually connected up properly to the N8N server, the instance, which is going to be over here. As you can see, it has updated this particular URL here. So workflow ID is just going to be YouTube content repurposer. But I think it's actually called this instead. So that's the ID. So we're just going to go ahead and replace this with the actual ID. Now if we come back over here, let's see if it can actually do something. Still says failed to fetch. So obviously a work in progress, but it's coming together quite nicely, and eventually I'll be able to connect to the N8N instance on my virtual private server, and we can use this to generate infographics that look like this within a couple minutes. And then from here, it will also create the LinkedIn posts, and it's going to upload them to Google Drive. And then all you have to do is just make those posts on LinkedIn. So this is a huge time saver. If you want access to this once it's finished, I'll probably put it up on its own website so you can use this. Here's the features. It's got the modern UI, remote N8N integration, mock data mode, and in order to actually run this, it's going to be running the N8N instance on my Hostinger account with the URL right here. And in order to get started, I'm just going to run npm install, and that's just going to set up all of the node modules, and then we're just going to run npm run dev. So that's now running on localhost port 5174. In order to make the generate content button work, it's telling me step by step what I need to do. You need to set up a workflow in your N8N instance and create a new workflow here, and then add a webhook node. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to modify this existing workflow right here, and all I'm going to do is drop in a webhook instead of the on-form submission, because we're not going to be using that in this case. So I'm just going to disconnect that, and it's going to use the webhook instead so that I can control it from the web UI over here. So now we just need to set up this webhook. HTTP method post, so this is going to be post right here. And then the path that we want to set is YouTube content repurposer right here. So there's the path. And then the response mode is going to be on last node to return the generated content. So response is here is going to be when last node finishes, right there. And then I also need to connect my logic, so I need to add the nodes to process the YouTube URL, YouTube transcript node, LLM chain, and then I need to ensure the final node returns a JSON object with the following structure right here. So once all of that is set up, it's going to run successfully. So now I've just told Google Antigravity what the specific webhook URL is that we're going to be calling, which is over here. This is the production URL, and I've already published this workflow, so it is now ready to go. It's going to update the URL, so we're just going to go ahead and accept that here, accept the changes. Now it's got the full webhook URL in order to call it, and then once I go ahead and run this app, it should call the N8N automation. So it looks like it may have worked. No, it still says workflow execution failed, error in the workflow. So that's definitely a step in the right direction. Before it was just saying it wasn't able to call it. But now, if I go over here and I just say listen for test events, now it should call this specific webhook URL. If I just go ahead and refresh this, generate content, looks like it's still not calling the webhook URL for some reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this error message that I'm getting right here, workflow execution failed, and I'm just going to come over to Google Antigravity and type in, it's not running the N8N workflow. When I click generate content, and I'm just going to paste in this error right here. I've confirmed the 500 status code with the error message from the curl command. This means the request is hitting N8N, but the workflow execution is failing specifically. Now I can see that the latest execution succeeded. All I had to do was disconnect it from the rest of the automation because this particular node is not working correctly. We're not passing in the right JSON value right here. As you can see, here's the output. So now anytime that I run this over here, you can see it is getting back the generated content now. So this is the URL that we want, which is coming inside the header body. So we just have to get this specific URL, and then we're going to pass that into the next node over here. So if I just go ahead, come back to the editor, we're going to connect this up again and see if we can get the data that was processed from the webhook, and we're just going to put in that particular URL here. So now I have the JSON body URL, which is passing in here, and then it's getting the entire transcript over here. As you can see, this is the transcript from the YouTube video, and then what we're doing is we're just splitting that out and combining it again, so we've got the entire transcript. And then the next step is it's going to run Google Gemini in order to create a summary, but it looks like it exceeded the current quota, so I may need to add some extra API credits. So if we come on over to AI Studio, you have reached a rate limit. Set up billing to increase your limits and unlock your work. So all I have to do here is I'm just going to set up my billing account. And once this is done, I shouldn't be hitting any more rate limits. So let's just go ahead and set up Google Cloud Console here. Then I just need to add my information. So we're going to use this one here and finish the account setup. Google Cloud Billing account is being processed. Processing time varies. All right, but that should at least remove the rate limit now, because you can see I was hitting a limit right here. So now if we go ahead and do this once again, we shouldn't encounter that rate limit this time. So one last time here, we're just going to come over, we're going to execute this workflow. I'm going to go to executions, and then I'm going to come over here and click on generate content, and it should start running it. Go to executions. Now it's running. Hopefully it doesn't have any issues this time. And once this is done, I just wanted to output the LinkedIn post and the infographic right over here inside the web UI. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and top up my API credits in Claude, which is what it's using to create the LinkedIn posts. So once that's done, it will be able to finish this automation run. This is an example of what you can do with Google Antigravity in order to connect a web app to your N8N instance, which in my case is just running over here on Hostinger. So anytime I run this, it will run this automation, and the ultimate goal with this is just to spit back the LinkedIn post and the infographic right here. So now if I come back over to Google Antigravity, I'm just going to tell it to create the LinkedIn post and the infographic and display it in the web app once the automation is finished running. It will automatically transcribe what I said, and implement those changes right now. And even if it doesn't display it over here, it's automatically uploading it to my Google Drive folder. And then you simply take this infographic and the post and you post it up on LinkedIn. And if we come over to KIE here, this is what I'm using to create the infographics. Let's come over here and then we're going to come down to logs. This is running right now. This is creating the infographic. And you can also see some of the previous infographics we created as well. So this should be finished soon, and it's all being run from my web app here using the N8N instance on my virtual private server. Now finally, the entire workflow execution has completed. It succeeded in about 3 minutes 39 seconds. And ideally, it would actually just display it over here. You can see it's getting close. It says LinkedIn post, and then it also has the generated infographic image place marker right here. But the only thing missing is I'm not returning it in the proper format so that it can get those and post them automatically to the website. But it's getting very, very close. So if I open this, you can see this is the infographic that it created in a couple minutes right here from the YouTube video. And then we've also got the entire LinkedIn post and LinkedIn newsletter and also blog article in here as well. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know if you would like something like this for your own business. Thanks so much for watching. Signing off.